YoonJae, an office worker, requests to go home early on his wife's birthday. On his way home from work, he stops to get flowers and ingredients for soup. After arriving at home, YoonJae prepares dinner and sets the table to a photograph of his wife and daughter, who died some time prior. YoonJae tries to write a note to them in a journal entry, but gets caught up in his despair as he repeats the same lines over and over. Miss you. When he finally regains control of himself, he finds the journal he was writing in incomprehensibly changed, and his entries are erased, only containing 2 new lines. You can see them again, your wife and daughter. A few days later, YoonJae requests to leave work early again, and his boss cancels team dinner so that he can go home. YoonJae returns home and looks at the journal that erased half a year's worth of entries, before new entries started appearing in it that foretold the future. The most important part of the journal, though, is the promise that he can see his family again. He focuses on an entry that states he will enter a new world at 10 p.m. that night and turns to watch the clock slowly tick over to the end of the hour. The world changes, and YoonJae finds himself in a grassy forest with his journal, surrounded by other people. Once again, the journal proves to be telling the truth. A voice speaks to everyone, most of whom are puzzled about what's going on. The voice tells everyone to imagine their weapon of choice, and YoonJae doesn't hesitate to imagine a sword into existence. While a gun would have been useful, anyone who imagined a gun was instead given a bow. Before anyone can properly prepare themselves, the voice announces that zombies are approaching and that they must work together to fight them. YoonJae, knowing everything that would happen thanks to the new journal entries, acts before everyone else and steals his resolve, focusing on seeing his family again before he decapitates a zombie and earns an achievement point and an achievement for being the first to kill a zombie, gaining 2 points to every stat in the process. The fight begins in earnest, and YoonJae, focusing only on himself and growing as strong as possible so that he can see his family again, ends up defeating 58 zombies. He achieves the most kills and gets another 100 achievement points, 2 free stat points, and a bonus to his weapon. While the journal lets him know that magic is the most important stat, YoonJae needs strength or agility raised to a high enough foundational level to properly survive. 198 people survived the first tutorial, and the voice begins stage 2 of the tutorial, stating only the top 100 with the most achievement points in 3 days will live. The voice goes on to explain that achievement points can be gained through fighting creatures in the world or through killing another player and gaining half of their points. Everyone immediately grows nervous and chaos erupts as people fear others trying to kill them or imagine easy points through killing others. But YoonJae, knowing what the future holds, shouts through the middle of everyone and tries to convince them that surviving together and hunting monsters is the best bet. YoonJae leaves the group to go off hunting monsters, but a woman tries to follow him. Knowing what the woman is actually after, YoonJae tells her to go to someone else if she's looking for a free ride. Not long after, he approaches a dungeon that was mentioned in the journal. Though the journal specifically mentioned how dangerous the dungeon is, with great risk comes great reward, and YoonJae enters. A flesh-eating crawler attacks him within the dungeon. Cutting through its shell, YoonJae kills it, gaining 10 achievement points and 1 point of resistance, a marked improvement over the zombies. He fights his way through the cave, heading for the main prize at the end while gaining stats and achievement points. The dungeon also holds moss ants that travel in groups, but a quick distraction of bread allows YoonJae to get the jump on them and kill 5 before one hits him in the back, staggering him while he finishes the last 4 of them off, gaining the E- strength and skin of moss ant skill, raising his strength by 3 and his defense by 2. Unfortunately, the journal only says that someone will enter the dungeon the next day and gives no clue as to who it might be, while making it impossible to turn to the next page. Meanwhile, Do-young looks over the achievement point rankings and can't believe he's only second, even as he holds the head of a player he's about to kill. The woman who previously tried to follow YoonJae speaks from Do-young's side and points out that it obviously has to be the one who killed the zombies first. The woman claims to know where YoonJae went and promises to tell him if she can kill the player he was holding. Do-young agrees, but not without letting it be known that he wants compensation in return. Back in the dungeon, 2 days have passed, and YoonJae finally comes face to face with the dungeon boss, the Queen Moss Ant. With the stats he has, YoonJae is about twice as strong as the average player, but just when he's wondering how he'll face the Queen Moss Ant, he receives a reward of 8 stat points and more bread to use as bait for being in first place. Feeling emboldened by his luck, YoonJae attacks the ants surrounding the Moss Queen, slaying them, while his new skill proves useful in helping him avoid injury. All of the other ants are dead, and YoonJae is left facing the queen in single combat. While YoonJae is battling the queen, Do-young and his followers explore the dungeon cave in hope of being able to kill YoonJae for his stat points and his first place position. YoonJae kills the queen, gaining an achievement points, and stopping moss ant spawns from within the dungeon. Additionally, he gains a new skill from the queen. Fortified Skin, his first active skill that allows him to use magic to create a barrier on his skin. Since it scales with magic, it should prove useful for a long time. And still the dungeon provides more rewards. Items. Not just any item, but an item that's perfect for YoonJae. Do-young turns the corner with his group and finds the dead Ant Queen, and YoonJae, who is confused that they arrived the day before the journal said they would, proving that the journal isn't infallible. Do-young realizes how strong YoonJae really is to have killed all of the monsters by himself without even looking tired. They have a brief stare down when YoonJae tells him to move out of the way, before Do-young relents and moves aside, finally realizing his error in hunting players for achievement points without getting stat points from hunting monsters as well. The second stage of the tutorial ends with many players fighting each other in a desperate bid for more achievement points. The entire stage and any players that didn't make it into the top 100 are burned, while the top 100 players find themselves in stage 3 of the tutorial in smaller groups. In front of them are a red door, a blue door, and a white door. One person can freely move on to the next stage through the white door. 5 people can enter the blue door and face a challenge of moderate difficulty, and 10 people can enter the red door to face a truly challenging trial. Of course, players immediately sprint for the white door, but since the pick order goes from those with the most achievement points to the least, YoonJae gets first pick. Against everyone's expectations, YoonJae picks the red door without hesitation, and the second player picks the white door. Everyone else who's able to picks the blue door, and the remaining players are assigned to the red door. With only 3 players other than YoonJae left to enter the red door, one of the players breaks down and tries to forcibly enter the white door before refusing to enter any door at all, spelling his doom. Now only down to 3 players including himself, YoonJae introduces himself to the other 2 players in the empty village they find themselves in. A man named Jung Yu and a woman named Yoonji Kim. Seeing the blood on his shirt, YoonJae voices his realization that Jung Yu has killed other people and doesn't let him explain because in the end he doesn't really care. The mysterious voice speaks to the 3 of them, laying out the rules of the stage they're in. The stage will last 3 days. Monsters will be summoned to attack twice a day, with 20 waves in total at non-fixed intervals, and the boulder in the town center must remain intact. Additionally, while the outside of the village is a large safe zone, one person must remain in the village, otherwise the closest player to the village will be summoned to it. The stage's rules are meant to pit players against each other and create controversy, and with only 3 players on the stage, it's already hard enough. After leading the 2 over to check out the boulder they have to defend, YoonJae directly asks them if they're planning to fight or run. He explains that the true difficulty of the stage is players working together and avoiding the temptation to just stay alive in the safe zone, and Jung Yu agrees that running away would only decrease his odds in this situation. The woman Yoonji mostly remains quiet but doesn't run. Since he chose the blue door in the journal's record of events, YoonJae knows nothing about the stage they're in, but he does know that they'll be called back to the same place to start the 4th stage, so having the opportunity to kill as many monsters as possible for growth is a good thing. Yoonji begins to argue, but before she can get too far, the earth cracks and the first wave attacks, formed of demon goblins. YoonJae rushes ahead and quickly begins killing the goblins, even having to utilize his active skill to stop one of the goblins from stabbing him in the back, and they clear the wave with only a light cut to Yoonji's shoulder. Later that day, Jung Yu approaches YoonJae and nervously begins to explain how he ended up killing a player. As it turns out, it was completely in self-defense, and he still feels terrible about it. YoonJae tries to comfort him, but soon notices that Yoonji is missing. They can't find her after a short search and conclude that she ran away from the village. With only 2 people left to defend the boulder, YoonJae discusses strategy with Jung Yu and tells him that he only has to kill 10 monsters and buy time. After another defense, day 1 ends and the rapid growth reinforces that YoonJae made the right choice in picking the red door. Just by surviving, they'll get 55 stats over 10 days, and a special bonus that awaits at the end. Also, Jung Yu receives a new skill, Demon's Pact, that increases his strength and agility by 5 when activated, while reducing stamina and resistance by 2. Yoonji watches them from outside the village, trying to justify her decision of running away to herself with how well the 2 are doing. More days pass, and the 2 defenders face tree ants, giant rats, orcs, and other monsters over the course of the waves. As YoonJae treats an injury to Jung Yu's leg, Jung Yu cries while expressing his worry about being able to survive as they continue, eventually coming to the resolution that his little siblings still need him. YoonJae tells him that he isn't going to die and to get some rest. Day 10 of their defense mission dawns, and YoonJae dwells over the memories of his wife and daughter. Mysteriously, no monsters spawned for quite some time on the 10th day, breaking the previous pattern of appearing around noon and around sunset on the other days. Even though it's the 10th day, Yoonji still hasn't returned to them, and the 2 discuss where she might be when the boulder they need to defend breaks apart. It startles them before a boss monster, the Demon Lich, which really looks like an undead bull, is summoned from the debris. YoonJae has Jung-Yu hold off the skeletons that are appearing while he faces the boss monster and rides along its back, trying to stab it while it rampages around through buildings and almost kills him in the process. To make a bad situation worse, the Demon Lich even reveals to have regenerative abilities. Meanwhile, YoonJae watches everything from nearby. Instead of worrying about them or trying to help, YoonJae succumbs to her paranoia that the two might try to get revenge on her or kill her for running away. YoonJae continues his fight against the Demon Lich, searching for a way to bypass its regeneration. He finds it when he notices a red gem glowing from within the undead bull's skull after he attacks it. Before YoonJae can attack again, Jung-Yu yells to get his attention and blocks the skeleton mage's attack, taking heavy injuries in the process. When he goes to check on his friend, YoonJae is surprised and hit by the Demon Lich's tail, and he's sent flying, barely able to use fortified skin to stop the Demon Lich from smashing him into a pulp against the wall of a building. Activating another skill he got on day 5 that regenerates him in some capacity, YoonJae finds himself in a perfect position to destroy the gemstone in the Demon Lich's head, finally defeating it and causing all of the skeletons to collapse with its defeat. With that, the stage is clear, and Jung-Yu finds YoonJae crawling out from underneath the Demon Lich's corpse. Seeing that they both survived, Jung-Yu begins to celebrate, but is cut short as he's stabbed in the back by YoonJae. It seems that they had forgotten about her as she reappears, convinced that they'll try to kill her for having run away. She believes it to be either her or them, so she decided to betray them in the end. But she made a mistake when she didn't eliminate YoonJae first. We hope you enjoyed the story so far. Check out the live if you'd like to see what happens next in YoonJae's adventure.